We regret to inform you. Your childhood has expired.
Disney used to be untouchable. They made your childhood magical. They gave us Simba, Buzz Lightyear, and Elsa. But in 2025, Disney is dying. Box office bombs, theme parks losing visitors, subscribers walking away, and it's not just a rough patch, it's a full-on collapse. The brand that once meant wonder now means woke, overpriced, and out of touch. So what happened? This is the brutal downfall of Disney and how they destroyed their empire from the inside. If you were born in the 80s, 90s, or the early 2000s, you lived through the Disney Renaissance. It wasn't just a company, it was your childhood. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Tarzan, The Fox and the Hound, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, all timeless classics. They weren't remakes, they were original, emotional, and unforgettable. Then came Pixar, then Marvel, then Star Wars, and by 2020, Disney owned nearly half the US box office. Disney was at the top of the mountain, and that's exactly when the fall began. In 2020, there was a turning point. In the years that followed, Disney would experience a ton of financial disasters that would have killed off most studios. We're talking over $1 billion in theatrical revenue and over $11.5 billion down the drain on streaming. But let's break down the financial bloodbath. Lightyear, the Toy Story prequel, lost Disney over $106 million. Strange World, $197 million. The Marvels, $237 million. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, $120 million, Haunted Mansion, $117 million, and Wish, $100 million. Nearly every tentpole film had flopped, and the biggest disaster of all, Snow White, the film that turned Rachel Zegler into the most hated Disney star in history. Even the live-action remake of Mulan ended up costing the company over $330 million. Disney was in serious trouble. So how were they going to plug this bleed? On August the 29th of 1997, a little company was founded called Netflix. By 2010, Netflix was grossing over $1 billion a year, and by 2025, it had exploded to over $40 billion. Disney would go on to launch their Disney Plus streaming service in 2019, with hopes that it was going to be a monumental success. But whilst Disney was still burning in the theaters, it turned out their streaming service wasn't going to do much better. Even though it started with a bang, Disney Plus was never profitable. Despite hitting a peak subscriber base of 164 million in 2022, Disney was still bleeding money. The fans' response wasn't much better, with fans giving it only a 1.3 out of 5-star rating on Trustpilot.com. Content was labeled lukewarm, disappointing, and poor quality at best. By 2024, Disney's subscriber base had dropped from 164 million all the way down to 124 million. Why? Because the content was weak. She-Hulk was widely mocked and given only a 32% audience rating. Secret Invasion was the lowest rated MCU project to date, and Willow was cancelled after one season and pulled entirely from the platform, as well as dozens of other titles being wiped completely just to try and save some tax money. Disney Plus was no longer a streaming service, it was a graveyard of corporate misfires. Even the parks, Disney's most profitable asset, was in serious trouble. In 2023, Disney World reported an attendance drop of over 6%, and Disneyland dropped by 12%. This was despite post-COVID travel being up. The translation: people were actively choosing not to go. Why? Because the magic was gone. One of the controversial changes that Disney made at its parks was changing the FastPass service to Genie Plus. The FastPass used to be free of charge to all guests, with the MaxPass having an associated fee. This allowed you to go down the lightning lanes as many times as you wanted, whereas the Genie Plus would only allow you to do it once per ride. Ticket prices weren't much better, with the average price of entrance currently sitting at $160 per adult. And this is expected to rise. By 2031, it's predicted that the average price for ticket will be $253. Disney is failing because of its greed. They no longer care about customers. Disney fans even went as far as to say that the parks were riddled with litter, were dirty, and had broken animatronics. The problem is that Disney knows they have complete pricing power. Regardless of what they set their ticket prices at, people are going to continue showing up. It wouldn't be a Disney downfall video if we didn't mention their most recent controversy surrounding Snow White. They decided to make a live-action remake of the 1937 classic, except this time they stripped away everything that made it love. loved. The lead, Rachel Zegler, from the moment she opened her mouth publicly, the movie went downhill fast. She insulted the story, called the prince a stalker, and said the original Snow White was weird and not something young girls should aspire to be anymore. But the problem is that audiences love the original, and when you insult that, you're not updating the story, you're actively mocking people's childhood. So it was no surprise that the YouTube trailer received over 2.3 million dislikes before eventually being unlisted. Zegler's interview clips went viral, amassing over 50 million views, and practically all of the comments were negative, and social media sentiment around Snow White was exceptionally toxic. People didn't just dislike Zegler, they despised her. She became the symbol of everything that was wrong with modern Disney. Arrogant, out of touch, woke, and disrespectful to its own legacy. So much so that before the film was even released, it was projected to lose upwards of over $200 million. But these aren't the only films that have cost Disney a tremendous amount of money. Solo, a Star Wars story, shook faith in the franchise. It was so bad that it essentially killed the franchise's theatrical release strategy and cost Disney over $67 million. Or what about the X-Men universe? Dark Phoenix was another box office bomb for Disney, costing them upwards of over $133 million. Or what about the X-Men film that none of us actually remember? The New Mutants broke into theaters without anyone ever really noticing, and it went on to cost Disney $87 million. The pattern here is that Disney keeps releasing poor quality content. They've gone from caring about their customer base to trying to milk them for everything they've got, and people are waking up. We're not having it anymore. We're not going to keep throwing money at these big corporations that are trying to ram stuff down our throats and give us nothing in return. But despite Disney having a tremendously poor run over the last several years, maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. Lilo and Stitch has currently just passed $775 million in the box office, so will this be the turning point that Disney's been waiting for? Of course it won't. Disney recently announced it was laying off hundreds more people around the world within its film, television and finance department, as Bob Iger continues to try and drive savings within the company. Let's not forget, in 2023, around 7,000 workers were let go to try and save $5.5 billion. The message is clear: Disney is bleeding money, and unless they turn things around fast, they may become a footnote in the entertainment history. The real issue isn't just the money, it's an identity crisis. Disney doesn't know who it's for anymore. Not kids, not families, not long-time fans. They remade The Little Mermaid, Pinocchio, Peter Pan, Mulan, Snow White, and every single one of them flopped and underperformed. Why? Because they've replaced the magic with messaging, the fun with formula, and wonder with lectures. The result is Disney is now a brand that nobody recognizes or wants. The saddest part is Disney had everything: the most beloved characters, the most powerful franchises, the world's trust, and they threw it away trying to be something that they're not. They didn't fail because audiences changed, they failed because they changed and forgot why people loved them in the first place. This isn't just a bad quarter, this is a full-scale collapse of the most powerful brand in entertainment history. The box office is down, streaming is failing, theme parks are struggling, fans are leaving, and the Disney logo doesn't make people smile anymore. It makes them roll their eyes. The castle is crumbling, the magic is gone, and unless something changes fast, Disney is finished.